Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the story, everyone. Chaos had taken over the headquarters of Nexor Corp. Big screens were flashing red messages. Critical security failure. Emergency restart in progress. Engineers were running around. Managers were shouting orders that no one could hear. And in the middle of it all, standing like a rock in the storm, was Ethan Wright, CEO of the largest tech company in the country. His eyes were cold, intense. The kind of man who doesn't accept failure. 30 seconds, he said, checking his wristwatch. If no one fixes this, you're all fired. We're trying, sir, one desperate engineer replied, but the system won't take any more commands. Ethan didn't blink. He just crossed his arms and waited for disaster. That's when the emergency doors opened. Everyone turned. Delivery. Unsweetened lemon tea and whole wheat bread with tofu, shouted a woman's voice. She came rushing in, still wearing her helmet, with a delivery backpack on it. Her t-shirt was soaked with sweat, and she was breathing heavily. It was Mia Santos, an app delivery worker, and clearly in the wrong place. Miss, this is a restricted area, someone shouted. Wait, isn't this the 32nd floor, order number 49? It's in the system. Get out of here now. Relax. I'm just delivering. My customer is Ethan Wright. Everyone froze. Ethan turned to face her. You know who I am? Of course, your name's right here in the app. She showed her phone. Order placed at 11:42. You're 1 minute late, he said flatly. There was traffic. Once she took a deep breath. Never mind, here's your food. Mia held out the bag, not understanding why everyone was staring at her like she was from another planet. Then she noticed the giant screen behind him. That system. Are you trying to restart it while the core cache is still active? One of the engineers grumbled. And now the delivery girl wants to teach us? No, it's just Mia pointed at the code. If you keep that line running, it'll go into defense mode and freeze everything. Ethan stepped forward. You understand this? A little. I was in computer science college, dropped out in my 4th semester. Can I try? Ethan looked around. All the engineers lowered their eyes. Go ahead, he said. Mia walked up to the panel, touched the screen gently, and opened a hidden line of code. She typed a few commands, unplugged the cable, and restarted the system using a backup power source. 3 seconds later. System stable. Access restored. The alarm stopped. The lights returned to normal. Silence. It worked? She asked, confused by everyone's stares. Ethan looked at the screen, then at her. What's your name? Mia. Mia Santos. Can I go now? Wait. She turned around. Don't want a job? No thanks. I have more deliveries to make. And she ran off, like she hadn't just done something amazing. On her motorcycle, crossing the wet streets with her backpack, Mia smiled with relief. She had no idea she'd been caught by more than 30 cameras, and that her face was already being shared in company chats, tech forums, and on social media. 30 minutes later, in a dark room at the company, Ethan was watching the security footage on replay. He zoomed in on her face more each time. Mia Santos, he whispered. On the other side of town, Mia walked through her front door with a plastic bag holding rice and eggs. Mom. I'm home. The thin, pale woman in the wheelchair gave a tired smile. How was your day, sweetie? Same as always. Had to run again, but everything turned out fine. And the rain still hasn't started. I'm going to make soup, okay? But outside, as Mia changed out of her uniform and washed her hands, 2 men were watching her modest home from across the street. That's her? Asked the man in the cap. Yes, Ethan said. Find the delivery girl from the incident. That's the one. What does he want with her? No one knows. But if Mr. Wright wants it, we follow orders. The next day, Mia stood in front of a newsstand, eyes wide. On the cover of the country's most famous business magazine, the headline read, Delivery girl fixes in seconds what 30 engineers couldn't. Who is Mia Santos? She ran to the bus stop, heart racing. No, 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 this is going to cause me trouble. But it was already too late. As she turned the corner, a black limousine pulled up in front of her. The window rolled down slowly. It was him. Mia. said Ethan with a slight smile. "I've been looking for you." Her eyes widened. "What? I need your help again." Mia took a step back, nearly tripping on the cracked sidewalk. "My help?" she repeated, confused. "Look, I was just doing my job yesterday. It was luck." Ethan Wright kept that intense gaze, like he could read every thought in her head. The black limousine gleamed under the morning sun, drawing the attention of everyone on the street. "Luck?" He gave a half-smile. "No one solves a dynamic encryption issue in a second by luck." "I need to get to work," Mia said, adjusting the backpack on her shoulders. "How much do you make a day?" Ethan asked abruptly. Mia frowned. "That's pretty personal. I'll pay you double for a special delivery." He held out a black card with gold letters. Mia hesitated but took it. "That's the address. 7 o'clock tonight. Don't be late." The tinted window rolled up, and the limousine quietly pulled away, leaving Mia frozen on the sidewalk, holding the card like it was a bomb about to go off. In the Nexor Corp office, Ethan kept his eyes on the screen, showing Mia Santos's data. Each click revealed more about the mysterious young woman, dropped out of computer science in her 3rd year. Excellent grades, full scholarship, lived on campus, left after her father passed away. Li Chen, his personal assistant for over a decade, stood silently by the door. Why would someone with that kind of potential be delivering food? Ethan muttered, mostly to himself. "Maybe she's hiding something," Li suggested. Ethan turned in his chair, looking out over the city through the glass wall. "Keep digging. I want to know everything about her." In the corner of the screen, a notification popped up. A news article from 3 years ago. Famous chef accused of poisoning at luxury restaurant. The photo showed a middle-aged man with the same shy smile as Mia. "Interesting," Ethan murmured. "A thief's daughter should disappear." A shout echoed through the small neighborhood market where Mia was buying medicine for her mother. She froze, fingers tightening around the box of painkillers. Clara Lopes, a former college classmate, stood in the aisle with her signature blonde hair and arrogant attitude. "Thought you vanished after your dad got arrested," Clara continued, loud enough for everyone to hear. "How does it feel to be the daughter of someone who nearly killed 15 people? Mia took a deep breath and mentally counted to 3. "My father was innocent," she replied without turning around. Clara let out a cruel laugh. "Of course. That's why he killed himself in prison, right? Innocent people always hang themselves." Mia felt her blood boil. She turned quickly to face Clara, but her phone buzzed in her pocket. A message from her mother. "Don't forget the medicine, sweetheart. Love you." It calmed her down. Mia paid for the medicine and left silently, ignoring the curious looks from other shoppers. "Coward, just like your father," Clara shouted after her. On her way home, Mia fought back tears. It had been 3 years since her father, Diego Santos, a talented chef, was accused of poisoning customers at a high-end restaurant. 3 years since he was found dead in his cell, just 2 weeks after being arrested. Her life had fallen apart that day, college, dreams. Everything was left behind when she had to take care of her mother, who developed a degenerative illness from the trauma. When she got home, she found her younger brother Lucas, only 12 years old, trying to fix the kitchen faucet. "Hey, Lou, what are you doing?" "It's leaking again," he replied, not looking up from the tool in his hand. "We're wasting a lot of water like this." Mia smiled, heart aching. Lucas had the same determination as their father. "Where's Mom?" "Sleeping. She was really tired today." Mia checked on her mother, Sophia, who was asleep in the small bed against peeling walls. Beside her, a photo of Diego smiling next to a fancy dish, the last award he ever received. Her phone rang again. It was Raphael, her manager at the delivery app. "Mia, you're out. I've had enough complaints. First, you sneak into a high-security company, then you show up in the news. This is bad for business. Raphael, please, I need this job." "It's over, Mia. Bring back the uniform tomorrow." The line went dead. Mia sat on the kitchen floor, back against the cold wall. Another job gone. The money barely covered her mother's medicine, and now she remembered the black card in her pocket, the address for that special delivery. Maybe it was her only option now. At 7:02 p.m., Mia stopped her old bicycle in front of one of the city's most exclusive restaurants. She wore the only presentable clothes she had, a pair of less faded jeans and a blouse borrowed from a neighbor. The valet gave her a disapproving look. "Service entrance is around back," he said, pointing. "I'm looking for Ethan Wright," she said, lifting her chin. "He invited me." The man laughed. "Right. And I'm the President of France." At that moment, a silver Aston Martin pulled up in front of the restaurant. Ethan stepped out, adjusting his perfectly tailored suit. "Mr. Wright." The valet rushed over. "Ignoring Mia, your table is ready." Ethan spotted Mia and walked toward her. "You're late," he said, checking his platinum watch. 2 minutes. "I came by bike." Ethan glanced at the rusty bicycle, then at Mia's simple outfit. "Let's go inside." As they walked into the five-star restaurant, Mia could feel all the eyes on her. The tables were filled with politicians, celebrities, and business people. Everyone dressed in expensive clothes and glittering jewelry. Ethan led her to a reserved table on the mezzanine, overlooking the lit-up city. "Why am I here?" Mia asked once they were alone. "I want to offer you a job." "Security technology." Mia gave a dry laugh. "I didn't finish college. I don't care about degrees. I care about results." A waiter approached with champagne. Ethan dismissed him with a wave. "Why are you really doing this?" Mia pressed. "You don't even know me." Ethan studied her for a moment, his eyes cold and calculating, but there was something else there, curiosity. "Maybe you did in 1 second what 30 experts couldn't do in an hour." That caught my attention. "You looked into my past, didn't you?" Mia said suddenly, "You must know about my father." Something flickered in Ethan's eyes. "I know he was a talented chef, and supposedly a criminal," Mia added bitterly. "That's what everyone says." Ethan leaned forward. "And what do you say?" Mia felt a lump in her throat. That he was innocent. That he would never poison anyone. That he loved cooking more than anything. The waiter returned with their meals, a culinary masterpiece for Ethan and another equally elaborate dish for Mia. She stared at the food, her stomach turning with memories. "My dad cooked better," she muttered. Ethan raised his eyebrows, surprised. "You cook too?" "I learned from him," Mia replied, tasting the dish carefully. "But I never had the chance to keep learning." Ethan watched her with an intensity that made her uneasy. For the first time, Mia noticed how attractive he was. In a mysterious and intimidating way, "I have a proposal for you," he said at last. "A test, actually." "What kind of test?" "Tomorrow, at company headquarters." "Jodian." Mia hesitated. "And if I say no?" Ethan smiled, unreadable. "Then I'll have wasted my time, and you'll miss an opportunity." The rest of the dinner passed in an uncomfortable silence. Mia couldn't figure out what this man wanted from her. As they left the restaurant, a slim and elegant woman approached them. "Ethan, what a surprise to see you here." Her eyes scanned Mia from head to toe, and a cruel smile appeared on her lips. "And who's this, your new assistant?" "Isabel Lopes," Ethan said coldly. "Didn't expect to see you." Mia froze at the last name Lopes, like Clara. "You two know each other?" Ethan asked, noticing the tension. "Not exactly," Mia replied, looking at Isabel. "But I know your daughter, Clara." Isabel's eyes lit up with recognition. "Wait, you're Diego Santos's daughter, the chef who tried to poison my husband?" Mia felt the ground disappear beneath her. "My father was innocent," she said automatically. Isabel laughed, sharp and mean. "Your father was a failure who couldn't handle competition. He tried to kill Ricardo out of jealousy." Ethan watched the scene, his expression unreadable. "Ricardo Lopes, the restaurant chain owner, my husband," Isabel confirmed. "He almost died because of her father." Mia's blood boiled. "It was a setup. My father would never do that." "The evidence said otherwise, dear." Isabel replied with venom, just like the jury that convicted him. Mia stepped forward, but Ethan gently held her arm. "I believe we're done here, Isabel," he said with authority. "Have a good night." Isabel gave a fake smile. "Be careful who you hire, Ethan. Bad blood always shows itself." As she walked away, Mia was shaking with anger. Now you see why I can't take your job, she said, pulling her arm back. This whole city thinks I'm the daughter of a criminal. Ethan looked at her for a long moment. And that stops you from proving them wrong? I've tried. No one believes me. I didn't say you had to convince them, Ethan said. I said you had to prove it. Mia felt a spark of determination grow inside her. How? Come tomorrow. Find out. Ethan got into his car, leaving Mia on the sidewalk, torn between doubt and curiosity. When she got home, she found an eviction notice on the table 3 months behind on rent. Her brother was asleep on the couch, hugging one of their father's old cookbooks. Mia looked at the photo of Diego on the wall, his kind eyes always smiling. Her phone buzzed a message from Ethan. The limousine will be there at 8:30. Don't be late. Mia glanced at the court summons, then at her brother sleeping, and finally at her father's photo. I have to try, Dad, she whispered to the picture. For all of us. Across town, Ethan was staring at his computer screen. Documents on the Diego Santos case filled the monitor. I found something odd, sir, Lee said, stepping into the office. About the poisoning case. The toxicology reports there are inconsistencies. Ethan gave a slight smile. Keep digging, and get everything ready for tomorrow. Are you sure, sir? The board won't approve. The board doesn't need to know. Not yet. On the screen, Mia's face now appeared next to her father's, the same determination in her eyes, the same quiet smile. Ethan closed the laptop. Tomorrow should be interesting. At 8:27, Mia stood on the sidewalk in front of her house, wearing the same borrowed blouse and a pair of less faded jeans. Her brother Lucas watched from the window, amazed as a black limousine turned the corner. That's the first time I've ever seen a real limo, the boy said, wide-eyed. Mia forced a smile, trying to hide her nerves. Don't wait for me for lunch. Take care of Mom, okay? Are you going to work for the rich man? I don't know yet, Lou. I'm just going to see what he wants. The limousine stopped, and the driver stepped out to open the door. Mia expected to see Ethan inside, but the vehicle was empty. During the ride, she watched her neighborhood disappear behind her, the low buildings, cracked sidewalks, and small shops. Slowly, the view changed to mirrored skyscrapers and flawless avenues. At Nexor Corp, a secretary in a perfect suit greeted her in the lobby. Miss Santos, please follow me. Mia was led to the top floor, where a glass-walled conference room was filled with men and women in expensive suits. Everyone went quiet when she walked in. Ethan sat at the head of the table, as calm as ever. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mia Santos. The executives gave her a once-over. Someone cleared their throat, unimpressed. Ethan, can we speak privately? Asked a gray-haired man. Of course, James. Mia, please wait in my office. In the CEO's office, Mia was left alone, surrounded by awards, degrees, and a panoramic view of the city. She felt small, out of place. On the wall, a photo of Ethan with important politicians. On his desk, interestingly, no personal photos, just work. The door suddenly opened, and Ethan walked in, followed by James and 2 other executives. This is outrageous, James snapped. Hiring a criminal's daughter for security? That's a risk to the company. Mia's face flushed. My father was innocent. Your opinion doesn't matter, girl, James cut in. The facts speak for themselves. Ethan stayed calm. The facts show that Mia solved a problem none of you could. She got lucky. Then let's test her, Ethan said, turning to Mia. Tonight, at the company's charity dinner. Mia frowned. I thought the test would be here. Ethan smiled. Change of plans. Tonight, we're hosting top investors and international partners. It's a formal dinner. And what does that have to do with me? The chef in charge of the event is Claire Beaumont, 3 Michelin stars. You once said your father cooked better. Prove it. Silence filled the room. The executives stared in disbelief. You're suggesting this delivery girl compete with Claire Beaumont? James asked, stunned. Exactly, Ethan replied. If Mia prepares a better dish, she gets a place at the company and $50,000. And if I lose? Mia asked. You go back to deliveries. No harm to your name or what's left of it, James laughed mockingly. Mia narrowed her eyes, feeling that spark of determination grow. I accept. The Nexor Corp event hall sparkled with golden lights, elegantly set tables, champagne flowing, and the high society dressed to impress. Mia watched everything from the kitchen entrance, still in her simple clothes, now covered by a white apron. In the main kitchen, Claire Beaumont, a middle-aged French woman with flawless posture, commanded a team of chefs with military precision. When she saw Mia, she wrinkled her nose. "C'est qui?" she asked in French, irritated. An assistant whispered in her ear. Claire turned to Mia, looking her up and down. "So, you're the petite challenger," she said with a heavy accent. "Here, we cook with skill, not with luck." Mia didn't answer. She looked over the ingredients, mentally planning what she would make. Ethan appeared in the kitchen doorway, looking impressive in his tuxedo. "Is everything ready for the challenge?" "Oui," Claire replied, "but I still think this is ridiculous." "The rules are simple," Ethan explained. "Each of you will prepare a main course. The guests will taste them without knowing who made what. The winner will be chosen by vote." "That's not fair," Mia protested. "She has a whole team." "You may choose one assistant," Ethan offered. Mia looked around. All the assistants belonged to Claire's team. Then she noticed a young man washing dishes in the corner. "Him," she said, pointing. The young man looked surprised. "Me? I'm just the cleaning guy. What's your name?" "Gabriel." "You're my assistant now, Gabriel." Claire laughed mockingly. "Good choice. A dishwasher to help a delivery girl." The challenge began. While Claire worked with precise movements, guiding her team in French, Mia looked unsure at first. Gabriel watched, nervous. "What should I do?" he asked. Mia took a deep breath, remembering her father's words. "Cooking isn't about following recipes. It's about telling a story. I need olive oil, thyme, rosemary, and that fillet," she said, pointing. "Let's tell a story." As Mia worked, her confidence grew. Her movements became more fluid, more precise. Gabriel watched with growing admiration, following her instructions carefully. Across the kitchen, Claire noticed the change and frowned. Guests began gathering around the tables, eager to see what would happen. Ethan watched Mia through the kitchen door, fascinated by the focus on her face. James approached him. "This is a mistake, Ethan. That girl is going to embarrass the company." "We'll see." When time was up, 2 dishes were presented to the judges. Claire's sophisticated French creation and Mia's dish. Simple in appearance but rich in aroma. Ethan was the first to taste. He closed his eyes as he tried Mia's food. "This reminds me of something familiar." He tasted Claire's dish and nodded respectfully. The other guests followed. Whispered comments spread. Surprised looks were exchanged. Isabel Lopes, one of the guests, recognized Mia. "That's the daughter of that criminal chef," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. A murmur spread through the room. Accusing eyes turned toward Mia. "I wouldn't taste anything she made," Isabel added. "How do we know she won't turn out like her father?" Mia felt the ground give way beneath her, all her effort falling apart because of the past. Ethan stepped toward Isabel with a cold smile. "Mrs. Lopes, if you refuse to taste the dish, you're disqualified as a judge." He turned to the other guests. "And if any of you agree with her, I'll pull my sponsorship from each of your projects." Complete silence. Ethan smiled. "Now, shall we continue tasting?" The room remained tense as the judges made their decision. Mia stood still, her hands trembling slightly. Gabriel gave her an encouraging smile. "The dish was amazing," he whispered. "I've never seen anyone cook like that." Ethan stepped onto the small stage in the center of the room, holding a golden envelope, his face giving away nothing. "Ladies and gentlemen, the result of our cooking challenge was surprising." Claire Beaumont kept a confident smile, while Mia took a deep breath, bracing for defeat. "By a margin of 3 votes, Ethan continued, the winner is Mia Santos." The room burst into murmurs. Claire's jaw dropped in disbelief. Mia blinked several times, unable to process what she just heard. "Impossible." Isabel stood abruptly. There must be some mistake. The votes were counted twice. "Mrs. Lopes," Ethan said coolly. "The decision is final." Camera flashes started going off. Still in shock, Mia was guided to the stage by Ethan. As promised, $50,000 and a position at Nexor Corp, he announced, handing her a check. When her fingers touched the paper, Mia felt a wave of emotion rise in her throat. That money would cover the overdue rent, her mother's medicine, Lucas's schooling. "Thank you," she managed to say, voice trembling. Ethan smiled, and for the first time, it seemed genuine. "You earned it." The next morning, Mia's name was all over the news sites. Daughter of convicted chef wins challenge against 3-star chef, delivery prodigy. From bike to elite cook, Ethan Wright hires criminal's daughter, strategy or madness. Mia sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through headlines on her phone. Her mother, Sophia, held the check with trembling hands. $50,000, sweetheart, she murmured, stunned. That's a lot of money. Lucas jumped with excitement. We're rich now. We can buy a new house. Mia smiled, exhausted. It's not that much, Lou, but it'll help us get by for a while. Her phone vibrated. A message from Ethan. Office. 10 o'clock. A.M. We need to talk. Before Mia could reply, the doorbell rang. When she opened the door, a man in a suit and tie stood there. Mia Santos? Yes. I'm a reporter from the National Daily, he said, holding a microphone toward her. Would you like to comment on the accusations that you followed in your father's criminal footsteps to win the contest? Mia froze. What? Behind the reporter, a van from another news outlet pulled up sawn. More reporters jumped out, cameras ready. Is it true your father taught you poisoning techniques before he died? How does it feel to work for the company your father planned to sabotage? The questions came like rapid fire. Mia stepped back and slammed the door shut, her heart pounding. She realized someone was trying to ruin her, just like they did to her father. At Nexor Corp's office, Ethan watched the sensationalist coverage on television, his face tense, his eyes fixed on the footage of Mia, surrounded by reporters. This is nonsense, he muttered. Who planted this story? Lee walked in, holding a tablet. Sir, the board is calling for an emergency meeting. They want you to fire Mia immediately. Ethan kept his eyes on the screen. And Ricardo Lopes, what did he say? He gave an exclusive interview, bringing up the old case. He says, You're putting everyone's safety at risk by hiring someone with criminal DNA. Ethan turned off the television with a sharp movement. Set up the meeting. And find out everything you can about her father's case. When Mia finally arrived at the company, she was met with suspicious looks. Employees whispered, and security kept a close eye on her. At reception, a different secretary greeted her with a cold tone. Mr. Wright is in a meeting. Please wait. Mia sat on the reception couch, feeling small. A nearby monitor played an interview with Ricardo Lopes. I fear for everyone's safety at Nexor Corp, said the silver-haired man with a calculating stare. Diego Santos was unstable, dangerous. He nearly poisoned 15 people, including me. Who's to say his daughter didn't inherit that tendency? Mia felt a chill run through her. Ricardo Lopes, the man who destroyed her father, was now coming after her. Suddenly, the meeting room door swung open. Executives walked out quickly, their faces tense. James, the same man who had questioned her before, gave her a look full of anger. Happy now? The company lost 3 contracts because of you. Ethan was the last to leave the room, his face unreadable. Mia, my office. The elevator ride was painfully silent. Once inside Ethan's private office, he closed the door and let out a heavy sigh. We need to talk about your father. Mia tensed up. If you believe those lies... I don't, Ethan interrupted. But I need to know the truth. All of it. Mia hesitated, eyes brimming with tears. My father was the head chef at Le Ciel, the most prestigious restaurant in town. Ricardo Lopes owned it. Ethan sat down and gestured for her to do the same. Go on. Dad created a menu that received incredible reviews, awards, international praise. But he wanted to open his own place. When he told Ricardo about it, Mia took a deep breath, struggling not to cry. The next week, 15 customers got sick. Traces of poison were found in the desserts. My father was arrested that same day. Did they deny it? Until the very end. He said someone framed him, but all the evidence pointed to him. 2 weeks later, they found. Her voice broke. Found him in his cell. He had hanged himself. Ethan opened a folder on the desk. We found something interesting. The autopsies of the customers have inconsistencies. The poison they found wouldn't have caused the symptoms that were reported. Mia's eyes widened. What? Someone tampered with the evidence? Before the conversation could continue, the office door burst open. Isabel Lopes walked in, followed by security and a news crew. Ethan Wright, she shouted dramatically. How dare you protect a criminal like her? Ethan stood up, furious. Who let you in? My husband holds major shares in 3 of your suppliers, Isabel said with a sharp smile. They want answers. The cameras turned to Mia, who stood frozen in place. That woman is the daughter of a murderer, Isabel went on, pointing dramatically, and now she's using the same methods her father did. That's enough, Ethan ordered, signaling the security guards. Get everyone out now. As she was being escorted out, Isabel shouted. You'll regret standing up for that girl, Ethan. The board is already voting you out. Once they were finally alone, Mia was trembling. I should go, she murmured. I'm ruining your reputation. Ethan stood silent for a moment, staring out the window at the city below. Do you know why I was drawn to you, Mia? She shook her head. Because we're alike, he continued. We both know what injustice feels like. Ethan turned to face her, determination in his eyes. We're going to clear your father's name and find out who really poisoned those people. Mia stared at him, surprised by the intensity in his eyes. Why? Why do you care? Ethan stepped closer, just inches away from her. Because I know the truth when I see it. Rain poured heavily as Ethan's limousine pulled up in front of Mia's small house. The narrow street barely fit the luxury vehicle, drawing curious looks from neighbors' windows. Are you sure about this? Mia asked hesitantly. You can drop me off here. You don't have to come in. Ethan looked at the modest houses, peeling paint, and tangled wires overhead. Are you ashamed of where you live? No, Mia answered firmly. I'm proud of my home. I just think you might not feel comfortable. Ethan gave a small smile. You think I was born with a silver spoon, don't you? Before Mia could reply, the driver opened the door, and Ethan stepped out into the rain like it was nothing. She followed him, hurrying to the front door. When she opened it, she found Lucas watching television on their worn-out couch. Mia! The boy shouted. Then froze when he saw Ethan. His eyes widened. It's the rich guy from television. Lucas, Mia scolded, but Ethan was already laughing. You must be Mia's brother. I'm Ethan. Do you really have a helicopter? Lucas asked bluntly. Ethan nodded. I actually have 2. Wow. The boy's eyes lit up. Can you take me for a ride one day? Lucas. Mia stepped in, embarrassed. Go see if Mom needs anything. Go on. The boy left reluctantly, still glancing at Ethan with admiration. Mia sighed. Sorry about that. He reminds me of myself at 12, Ethan said, looking at the photos on the wall. He stopped at one of Diego Santos, smiling next to a fancy dish. Your father? Mia nodded, a shadow of sadness on her face. The day he won Chef of the Year, 6 months before everything happened. A coughing sound came from the room next door. Mia tensed. My mom. She's not having a good day. Ethan followed her to a small bedroom, where Sofia Santos lay in bed. The woman, pale and visibly weak, opened her eyes wide at the sight of the visitor. Mom, this is Ethan Wright. Mia hesitated, unsure what to call him. Friend, Ethan said, offering his hand. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Santos. Sofia shook his hand weakly, still surprised. What brings a man like you to our home? Ethan sat in the chair beside the bed. Your daughter. She's extraordinary. Sofia smiled proudly. She's always been. Just like her father. Speaking of which, we're looking into his case, Ethan explained. I believe your husband was the victim of a setup. Sofia's eyes filled with tears. No one ever believed us. Diego would never do such a thing. Never. Mia had stepped out to get some water and returned to find her mom and Ethan chatting like old friends. Sophia looked more lively than she had in months, sharing stories about Diego. He always said food is a universal language, Sophia was saying. If you really want to know someone, eat what they cook. Ethan listened with genuine interest, asking questions now and then. The rain outside grew stronger, turning into a loud storm. Looks like you'll be stuck here for a while, Mia said, glancing at the window. Don't worry about me, Ethan replied. I've seen worse storms. While Sophia rested, Mia led Ethan into the kitchen. You must be hungry, she said, opening the modest fridge. We don't have much, but I can make something. Let me help, Ethan offered, taking off his expensive jacket and rolling up his sleeves. Mia stared at him in disbelief. You know how to cook? Let's just say I can manage. To her surprise, Ethan moved around the small kitchen with ease. He chopped vegetables with precision, measured spices carefully. Where did you learn to cook like that? Mia asked, genuinely curious. A mysterious smile appeared on his face. I wasn't always a CEO. Before I built Nexer Corp, I worked as a kitchen assistant in Taiwan for 3 years. Mia stopped what she was doing, surprised. You never told me that. You never asked? Side by side, they prepared a simple but tasty meal. The aroma filled the house, drawing Lucas into the kitchen. I'm starving, the boy said excitedly. As they ate, Ethan seemed more relaxed than Mia had ever seen him. Without the formal suit and rigid posture, he smiled and chatted easily with Lucas about video games and cars. Why did you choose Mia to work with you? Lucas asked suddenly. Ethan looked at Mia for a moment before answering. Because she sees solutions where others only see problems. Mia felt her cheeks grow warm. After dinner, Lucas talked Ethan into playing a game of makeshift chess, with missing pieces replaced by bottle caps. To Mia's surprise, Ethan deliberately lost, pretending to panic when Lucas captured his king. You're a natural strategist, kid, Ethan said. You should consider a career in business. Mia watched the scene with a strange feeling in her chest. Seeing Ethan, usually so serious and controlled, laughing with her brother was unsettling. The storm finally calmed around midnight. Ethan checked his phone, which was still buzzing with notifications. Trouble? Mia asked. Nothing that can't wait until morning, he said, putting the phone away. But it's late. I should go. At the door, Ethan turned to Mia. Thanks for dinner. It was different. Mia smiled. Different good or different bad? Definitely good, he replied, holding her gaze for a moment that felt longer than it was. When Ethan finally left, Mia closed the door and leaned against it, feeling her heart race. You like him? Lucas shouted, suddenly appearing in the hallway. What? Don't be ridiculous, Mia said, but her blushing cheeks gave her away. Mia and Ethan, sitting in a tree. Kissing. Lucas began to sing before Mia threw a pillow at him. The next morning, Mia woke up to her phone buzzing. A message from Ethan. Turn on the television now. Confused, she turned on the small television in the living room. Lucas was already there, watching with his mouth open. On screen, a news anchor reported the latest business scandal. Last night, Nexer Corp CEO Ethan Wright was seen in a low-income neighborhood, having dinner at the home of the controversial Mia Santos. Sources close to the board say shareholders are furious about the executive's personal involvement. The broadcast cut to an interview with Isabel Lopes. It's obvious she's using the same manipulative tactics as her father. First, he poisoned customers. Now she's poisoned the mind of one of the most powerful businessmen in the country. Mia felt her blood run cold. In other news, the cooking show Star of Gastronomy has announced Mia Santos as a special guest on its next episode, sparking controversy among viewers. The phone rang. It was Ethan. Did you see it? I did, Mia answered, her voice shaking. This could ruin your reputation. I don't care about that, Ethan said firmly. But we need to be careful. The television show, it's a trap. How do you know? Ricardo Lopes is the show's main sponsor. He's trying to humiliate you in public. Mia closed her eyes and took a deep breath. So that's what he wants. Fine. I'll go on the show, and I'll prove that the Santos family is not what they say we are. On the other end of the line, Ethan smiled. That's exactly what I hoped you'd say. The global television studios gleamed under the bright lights, Assistants ran back and forth, makeup artists made final touch-ups on the contestants, and the audience waited eagerly in the stands. Star of Gastronomy was the most watched cooking reality show in the country, known for its brutal challenges and harsh judges. Mia waited backstage, trying to steady her trembling hands. Ethan had tried to talk her out of coming, but she insisted. "It's the only way to clear our name," she had said. 5 minutes, a producer shouted. Beside her, the other contestants eyed her with suspicion. All of them were well-known chefs or past finalists. Mia, wearing a simple apron, looked completely out of place. "Nervous? Criminal's daughter?" whispered a blonde contestant with a smug smile. "I heard poisoning people runs in the family." Mia kept her head high, ignoring the provocation. She focused on the words her father always repeated in the kitchen. "It doesn't matter who you are, only what you create." The lights dimmed, the theme music played loudly, and the host, Bruno Ferreira, slid onto the stage with his signature wide smile. "Good evening, Brazil. Tonight, we have a special edition of Star of Gastronomy, featuring the most controversial contestant in the show's history." The audience clapped wildly. Mia took a deep breath. "And here are our judges," Bruno announced. "Chef Julian Moreau, Mariana Lopes, and our special guest, Ricardo Lopes." Mia felt her blood run cold. Ricardo, the man who destroyed her father, was smiling cynically at the judges' table. This wasn't a coincidence, it was a setup. The cameras focused on the contestants as they walked in. When Mia appeared, a wave of boos erupted from the audience, mixed with a few scattered claps. Banners reading "Poison Family Out" were held up. "Mia Santos," Bruno said dramatically, "daughter of the infamous chef Diego Santos, who nearly poisoned 15 people. How does it feel to be here?" Mia swallowed hard. "I came here to cook, not to talk about the past." "Oh, but the past always finds a way to haunt us, doesn't it?" Bruno pushed, winking at the cameras. Ricardo Lopes leaned toward the microphone. "I'm surprised by your courage, Miss Santos, especially considering your family history." Whispers ran through the audience. Mia kept her eyes on her workstation, refusing to take the bait. "Today's challenge," Bruno announced, "is to create a signature dish in 60 minutes. The winner earns immunity, and the worst dish leads straight to elimination." The workstations were revealed. To Mia's dismay, hers was poorly equipped: dull knives, scratched pans, and a stove that looked older than the others. "Let the flames begin," Bruno shouted, and a digital timer started counting down. Mia quickly checked her ingredients. She had planned to make wild mushroom risotto with red wine reduction, a recipe her father loved, but when she opened the pack of arborio rice, she found regular rice completely wrong for risotto. First trap, she thought. Improvising, she decided to make a creamy rice dish using a different method. The clock showed 45 minutes remaining. As she worked, she noticed the cameras were constantly following her, zooming in on her every move. The judges approached her station, watching with critical expressions. "Your technique is interesting," Julian commented with a patronizing tone. "Did you learn that from your father?" "Yes," Mia answered shortly. "He was a great chef, no matter what people say." Ricardo Lopes gave a mocking laugh. "A great chef?" He couldn't even tell the difference between spices and poison, it seems. The cameras captured every word. Mia's face burned, but she stayed focused. When she tried to use the food processor to chop the mushrooms, it made a strange noise and then stopped working. Second trap, she thought, grabbing a knife to chop them by hand. Time was flying. With 30 minutes left, Mia realized her stove wasn't heating properly, the water barely boiled. "Having technical issues, Santos?" A blonde contestant at the next station teased. Mia ignored her and adjusted her plan. She'd use the oven, which seemed to work better. As she adapted her recipe, she heard whispers from the audience and giggles from the other contestants. With only 15 minutes left, disaster struck. When she opened the oven to check her dish, thick smoke poured out. Someone had turned the temperature to the highest setting. Her rice was completely burned. The audience burst into laughter. "Looks like we've got a little kitchen fire over here," Bruno narrated, stepping closer to capture the moment. Mia felt her eyes burn with unshed tears. Everything had been carefully planned to humiliate her on national television. She looked at the clock. 12 minutes. No time to start over. Then she remembered her father's words. A real chef doesn't see ingredients. They see possibilities. With renewed determination, Mia looked at what she had left. Some vegetables, spices, and a few ingredients she'd prepared for a side dish. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. Working quickly, blocking out the teasing and harsh comments, Mia remembered a technique her father had taught her for desperate moments. When all seems lost, go back to the basics and find the purest flavor. 5 minutes, Bruno called out. Ricardo Lopes watched with a satisfied smile. His revenge on the Santos family was complete. The daughter would be publicly humiliated, just like he had destroyed the father. Mia was finishing up an improvised dish, a vegetable tartare with fresh herbs and spices, presented with a minimalist technique her father only used on special occasions. Time's up, knives down, Bruno announced. The audience applauded. The camera zoomed in on the elaborate dishes of the other contestants, and finally, on Mia's simple creation. Time for judging, Bruno announced with exaggerated enthusiasm. The other participants were praised for their technical creations. When it was Mia's turn, the studio went quiet. Ricardo Lopes tasted first, with a doubtful expression. It's edible, he said coldly, but completely unfit for this competition. Julian tasted next, frowning. Basic technique, no creativity. Disappointing. Mia kept her gaze steady, taking in the unfair criticism. Mariana, the last judge, tasted slowly. There's something familiar about this dish, she said thoughtfully. It reminds me of a failure. Ricardo interrupted. Like father, like daughter. The crowd reacted to the cruelty. Bruno smiled, ratings skyrocketing. At that moment, the studio doors burst open. Ethan Wright walked in, followed by his team of lawyers. Sorry for the interruption, he said, as he calmly approached the stage, but I couldn't miss this performance. A wave of murmurs swept the studio. The cameras turned to the newcomer. Mr. Wright, what a surprise, Bruno stammered. You came to watch? I came to clarify something, Ethan replied. Walking up to the judge's table, if Mia Santos loses this competition, Nexor Corp will immediately cancel its $50 million sponsorship of this show. Silence fell across the studio. This is blackmail, Ricardo protested. This is business, Ethan corrected calmly. Now, I suggest you taste her dish again, with an open mind this time. The judges looked at each other, stunned. Mariana was the first to respond, tasting Mia's dish again. The herbs, she murmured, closing her eyes. This combination is Diego Santos's signature. I recognize it now. Julian reluctantly tasted again. There's balance here. The simplicity hides a complexity of flavors. Ricardo refused to taste it again, but he was outvoted. When the votes were counted, Mia had won the challenge 2-1. The audience, confused, clapped hesitantly. Mia, tears in her eyes, couldn't believe it. At the end of the show, as she was leaving the studio, she found Ethan waiting. Thank you, she murmured, but you didn't have to. I did, he interrupted. What happened here was disgraceful. I won because of your threat, not because of my talent. Ethan held her gaze. You won because you're outstanding, even in the face of an obvious setup. That just shows how much they fear you. A tear rolled down Mia's cheek. Would my father be proud? Ethan smiled gently. I'm sure he already is. The morning was gray when Ethan arrived at his office. The heavy clouds matched his mood as he flipped through the documents on his desk. Forensic reports, expert findings, testimonies all related to the Diego Santos case. The phone rang for the third time, but Ethan ignored it. Since his appearance on the television show, shareholders had been calling non-stop, demanding explanations. The press was speculating about his relationship with Mia, inventing increasingly outrageous stories. Lee entered quietly, carrying a red folder. Sir, we found something. Ethan looked up, instantly alert. About the Santos case? Yes. The lab that did the toxicology tests shut down 2 years ago, but we managed to access their files. Lee placed the folder on the desk. The original samples from the supposedly poisoned clients are gone. Completely. No records. Convenient, Ethan muttered, flipping through the documents. There's more. The lead investigator in the case, Detective Alvarez, requested a transfer a week after Diego Santos's death. He bought a house in Portugal and never came back. Ethan stood up abruptly. Bribery. Looks like it. And there's one more thing. Lee hesitated. The judge who presided over the case, he's Ricardo Lopes's second cousin. Ethan slammed his fist on the table. Find that detective. I want him here as soon as possible. Sir, that's going to cost. I don't care what it costs. Make it happen. Lee nodded and left. Ethan turned his attention to a photo in the file. Diego Santos in handcuffs, being taken to prison. His eyes showed the same determination Ethan now saw in Mia. The intercom buzzed. Mr. Right, the board is meeting in the conference room. They're demanding your presence immediately. Ethan took a deep breath, adjusted his tie, and picked up the documents. It was time to face the consequences. Mia walked quickly through the downtown streets, keeping her hood up. Since the television show, she was recognized constantly, sometimes applauded, but often met with hostility. Poisoner's daughter, some would shout. Others asked for selfies. Fascinated by the controversy, her phone vibrated. A message from Ethan. Meeting with the board now. I'll update you later. Stay alert. Mia smiled without meaning to. Over the past few weeks, Ethan had become a steady presence in her life. It was still hard to define him boss, friend, something more, but the connection between them was undeniable. She stepped into a quiet cafe, ordered a coffee, and opened her laptop. As part of the investigation, Ethan had given her access to NexerCorp's files. She was determined to find any link between Ricardo Lopes and her father. It's you, isn't it? The girl from the cooking show. Mia looked up. An older woman was watching her from the next table. I knew your father, the woman continued, her eyes kind. He was a regular at Le Ciel. I never believed that poisoning story. Diego wasn't capable of that. Mia felt a lump in her throat. Thank you for saying that. It means a lot. What they're doing to you is the same thing they did to him, the woman said softly, leaning in. Be careful with the Lopes family. They destroy anyone who threatens their business. Before Mia could respond, the woman picked up her purse and left quickly. Mia sat in silence, thinking. It wasn't the first time someone had said the Lopes had enemies. Back at her laptop, she opened the financial records for Le Ciel from before the incident. Under Diego's leadership, the restaurant had tripled its revenue. Interestingly, just weeks before the poisoning, he had turned down a partnership offer from Ricardo, choosing instead to start his own place. The classic motive, Mia muttered to herself. Money. Her phone buzzed again, a news alert. Wright Corp board votes to suspend Ethan Wright following scandal with criminal's daughter. Mia's stomach dropped. Ethan was risking everything for her. In the NexerCorp boardroom, the mood was tense. 12 men and women in expensive suits stared at Ethan with expressions ranging from disapproval to thinly veiled anger. James Carter, the board chairman, struck the gavel. This emergency meeting is to address the recent behavior of our CEO, Ethan Wright, which has compromised the company's reputation and financial stability. Ethan remained composed. Since Ethan decided to get personally involved with Miss Santos, James continued, we've lost 3 international contracts, and our stock has dropped 7%. The press is questioning his mental state, and our shareholders are demanding answers. Murmurs of agreement filled the room. Therefore, James concluded, we propose the temporary suspension of Ethan Wright from the CEO position until this situation is resolved. Ethan finally stood, calm and steady. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, I understand your concerns, but what we're dealing with goes far beyond market fluctuations. He opened the red folder and spread documents across the table. These are records from the original investigation into Diego Santos. They're full of inconsistencies, missing evidence, and clear conflicts of interest. He looked directly at James. And we suspect Ricardo Lopes was behind it all. That's ridiculous, a female board member exclaimed. Ricardo is one of the most respected businessmen in the country. And one of our major investors, another added. These accusations are extremely serious, Ethan. They're backed by evidence, Ethan replied. The judge on the case was Lopes's cousin. The lead investigator vanished with a mysterious fortune. The toxicology samples were never properly verified. James adjusted his glasses, visibly unsettled. Even if that's true, what does it have to do with our company? Ethan leaned across the table. Everything. Because Ricardo Lopes has been trying to take control of Nexor Corp for years, and now, using Mia as an excuse, he's found a way to push me out. A heavy silence fell over the room. I'm not just defending Mia Santos or her father's name. I'm protecting this company from a corporate predator. James exchanged glances with the other board members. We need concrete proof, Ethan. We can't rely on conspiracy theories. Ethan nodded. I'm asking for just 2 weeks. If I don't present solid evidence by then, I'll resign willingly. After a tense debate, the council agreed to postpone the vote for 2 weeks. Ethan left the conference room, exhausted but determined. In the hallway, Lee was waiting for him. We located Detective Alvarez. He's living under a false name in Lisbon. Good. Get the jet ready. We leave tomorrow. Sir, there's something else, Lee said, hesitating. We've received word that Mia Santos might be in danger. Ethan felt a chill run through his body. What kind of danger? Online threats. People are furious about her being on the show. Lee paused again. Our sources say Ricardo Lopes hired someone to scare her. Ethan was already dialing Mia's number. No answer. Find her now. Mia walked out of the cafe, feeling like someone was watching her. The sky was darkening with the incoming storm, and the streets were unusually empty. She picked up her pace, clutching a folder of documents. As she turned down a deserted street, she heard footsteps behind her. She sped up, her heart racing. The footsteps grew quicker, too. She crossed the street, but a black car suddenly pulled in front of her, blocking the way. The door flew open. Poisoner's daughter, a hooded man shouted as he jumped out of the car. Mia stepped back, desperately looking for a way to escape. Another man appeared behind her. The Lopes family sends their regards, he said, moving in on her. Mia looked around, trapped between the two men. She grabbed the strap of her bag, ready to defend herself if she had to. The first man lunged. Mia dodged, but the second grabbed her from behind, pinning her arms. Help! She screamed, struggling. Suddenly, a third car screeched to a stop. Ethan jumped out like a storm, followed by 2 security guards. Let her go now, he shouted, his voice sharp and commanding. The attackers, caught off guard, hesitated. That was all Mia needed. She elbowed the man behind her in the stomach and broke free. Ethan, she cried, running to him. Realizing they were outmatched, the men ran back to their car and sped away into the growing darkness. Mia was trembling in Ethan's arms, adrenaline still coursing through her. Are you okay? She asked, out of breath. We tracked your phone, Ethan said, holding her tightly. Are you hurt? She shook her head, feeling oddly safe despite what had just happened. I'm okay. Just scared. Ethan cupped her face in his hands, studying her with concern. This is just the beginning. They're desperate now. Did you learn anything from the council meeting? I bought us some time, but I need solid evidence. Ethan paused, still holding her face. I'm going to Lisbon tomorrow. The detective who arrested your father is there. Mia felt a flicker of hope. I'm coming with you. It's dangerous. More dangerous than staying here, she replied, a faint smile forming on her lips. The sky finally opened up, releasing the rain that had been threatening all day. Ethan looked into her eyes, not caring that his clothes were soaked. Something shifted in that moment. A wall between them came down. Slowly, he leaned in and kissed her. It was a gentle kiss, almost like a question. Mia kissed him back, a warmth spreading through her despite the cold rain. When they pulled apart, they were both breathless, not from the fear but from what they had just discovered between them. We have to go, Ethan whispered. It's not safe here. But across the street, hidden in the shadows, someone was watching and taking pictures. 3 days, with no word. 3 days since Ethan had flown to Lisbon in search of Detective Alvarez. 3 days Mia spent shifting between hope and dread. The safe apartment Ethan had arranged for her, and her family was luxurious, but it felt like a golden cage. The curtains stayed closed. Guards stood at the door. Her phone buzzed constantly with sensational headlines. Santos heiress, in hiding, after scandal. Romance between CEO and criminal's daughter. Business or pleasure. Ricardo Lopes. Sues Nexer Corp. for defamation. Mia turned off her phone in frustration. Sophia sat by the window, worry written across her pale face. "Still no word from him?" she asked softly. Mia shook her head. "Lee says they're staying quiet for safety." Apparently, the detective is hard to find. Lucas ran into the room and turned on the 65-inch television. "Mia, you need to see this." The news was showing the Nexor Corp headquarters, surrounded by reporters. The headline made Mia's heart stop. Ethan Wright, missing for 72 hours. The reporter, standing in front of the mirrored building, spoke with a serious expression. Inside, sources confirm that Ethan Wright has not been seen since he boarded his private jet to Lisbon. The board of directors has called an emergency meeting for this afternoon. James Carter, chairman of the board, released a statement saying the CEO's absence is deeply concerning and that steps are being taken to ensure the company's stability during this turbulent time. The screen then showed Ricardo Lopes leaving an upscale restaurant, surrounded by microphones. "It's a tragedy," he said with fake concern, "to see a company like Nexor Corp shaken by a scandal like this. I've always warned about the risks of getting involved with the Santos family." Mia felt her blood boil. "Liar!" she exclaimed. "He knows exactly where Ethan is. I'm sure he's the one who—" The phone rang, cutting her off. Unknown number. Mia hesitated before answering. "Hello?" "Mia." Ethan's voice sounded distant, with interference. "Don't talk. Just listen." She held her breath. "I found Alvarez. He confessed everything. He was paid to plant evidence against your father. I'm coming back today with proof," but his voice was cut off by static. "Ethan? Ethan." The call dropped. Mia tried to call back, but the number wouldn't go through. "What happened?" Sophia asked, worried. "It was him. He found the proof. If he's coming back." Lucas cheered, jumping on the couch. But Mia couldn't share his excitement. Something about Ethan's voice felt off worried, almost scared. That night, Mia couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned, checking her phone every few minutes. At 4:37 a.m., a notification popped up. Ethan Wright's jet lands at private airport. She finally fell asleep, exhausted. A few hours later, frantic knocking woke her up. "Mia, Mia." It was Lucas, his voice choked with tears. "Come see the television, hurry." She jumped out of bed and ran to the living room. Sophia was already there, hands covering her mouth in shock. On the screen, live footage of an ambulance in front of Nexor Corp. Paramedics were wheeling out a stretcher. The headline read, "Nexor Corp CEO attacked at company headquarters." "No," Mia whispered, feeling the ground fall out from under her. The reporter spoke in a dramatic tone. "Ethan Wright was found unconscious in his office this morning by staff members. Witnesses say he was bleeding and showed signs of a violent attack. Police are investigating whether the assault is connected to the recent controversies surrounding the company. Hospital sources report his condition as serious but stable." Mia was already throwing on a coat over her pajamas. "I have to go to the hospital now." "Sweetheart, it's dangerous." Sophia tried to stop her. "Whoever did this to him might come after you, too." "I don't care," Mia said, grabbing her keys. "Stay here. The security team will protect you." In the elevator, her phone rang again. It was Lee. "Don't go to the hospital," he said right away. "Reporters are everywhere, and it's not safe." "How is he?" "Stable. 2 broken ribs, a concussion, deep cut on his arm. But—" Lee paused. "He left something for you before the attack. I'm sending a driver. Meet me at the company warehouse in 30 minutes. Mia bit her lip, torn between seeing Ethan and finding out what he had uncovered. "I'll be there." The Nexor Corp warehouse was in a remote industrial area, a plain gray building surrounded by others just as dull. Mia found Lee waiting by a side door. "Quick," he said, checking to make sure no one was watching. Inside, between dusty boxes and old equipment, Lee led her to a small office. On the table were a black folder and a flash drive. Ethan left instructions to give you this if anything ever happened to him. Mia took the folder with trembling hands. Inside was a signed confession from Miguel Alvarez, the detective who had investigated her father. The document detailed how Ricardo Lopes paid $2 million for Alvarez to falsify evidence, plant poison in the samples, and speed up the trial. "Oh my God," Mia whispered, tears streaming down her face. "This clears my father's name." "There's more," Lee said, plugging the flash drive into a laptop. Recordings of the conversations with Alvarez in Lisbon. He hesitated. Ethan suspected we were being watched. That's why he set this up in secret. Mia watched the footage with a heavy heart. Alvarez, a middle-aged man with nervous eyes, confessed everything in detail. How Ricardo had planned every step, how Diego Santos was deliberately taken down for threatening the Lopes culinary empire. "Why did he attack Ethan now?" Mia asked, wiping her tears. "Desperation. Ricardo found out Ethan had the evidence. He tried to stop it from going public." Lee looked away. This time, he hired professionals. If the security guard hadn't shown up, Ethan would have been... He didn't finish the sentence. "He didn't need to. We have to go to the police," Mia said firmly. "We already sent copies to the authorities and the press." "Ethan planned everything," Lee said with a slight smile. "He knew it was a dangerous mission. That's why he built a safety net." Mia's phone buzzed with a flood of notifications. The story was going viral. Businessman Ricardo Lopes accused of conspiracy. Diego Santos was innocent. The truth finally revealed. "I need to see Ethan," Mia said. Lee nodded. "The driver's waiting. He'll take you through the back entrance of the hospital to avoid the press." In the car, Mia held the folder against her chest like a talisman. 3 years of pain, shame, and injustice were finally coming to an end. Her father had been vindicated, but at what cost? At the hospital, a doctor led her down quiet hallways to a private wing. Security guards stood at the door of the room. Inside, Ethan lay in bed, hooked up to monitors, his arm bandaged and bruises on his face. He looked smaller, more fragile, so different from the strong man she had known. Mia stepped closer, gently taking the hand that wasn't attached to the IV. "You did it," she whispered. "You cleared my father's name." To her surprise, Ethan's eyes slowly opened. A faint smile appeared on his bruised lips. "Mia, don't try to talk," she said softly, touching his face. "You need to rest." "The final," he whispered with effort. "The national cooking competition." Mia frowned, confused. "What about it?" "I signed you up," Ethan managed. "Ricardo is the main sponsor. You have to go. Show everyone who you really are." He closed his eyes, exhausted. Mia stood frozen. The national culinary competition was the most prestigious event in the country. Winning would fully restore the honor of the Santos name. Her phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. "Congratulations on the vindication, Miss Santos. But this isn't over. I'll see you at the competition final. I want to see if you can cook as well as your father before I destroy you like I did him. Ricardo." Mia looked at Ethan, who had fallen asleep again. She kissed his forehead gently. "I'll go," she whispered, "and I'll win. For you, for my father, for all of us." As she left through the back entrance of the hospital, she was caught by camera flashes. A few reporters had found out she was there, but instead of running, she stopped. "Miss Santos, what do you say about the accusations against Ricardo Lopes? How did it feel to learn your father was innocent? Will you compete in the final?" Mia took a deep breath and lifted her chin with determination. "My father, Diego Santos, was the victim of a criminal conspiracy. Today, his name was finally cleared." Her voice grew stronger. "And yes, I'll compete in the national culinary competition. You can tell Ricardo Lopes I'll be there, ready to show the world my father's legacy." Reporters shouted more questions, but Mia was already getting into the car. The final battle was just beginning. The days leading up to the national culinary competition passed in a whirlwind. Diego Santos's story was all over the news. Innocent chef, the Lopes conspiracy, justice at last. The headlines changed by the hour. The public prosecutor's office officially reopened the case, and Ricardo Lopes was summoned to testify. Isabel mysteriously vanished during a sudden trip to Europe. The Lopes empire was starting to collapse under the weight of the revelations. Mia split her time between intense training for the competition and visits to the hospital. Ethan was recovering slowly, still too weak to return to work but strong enough to coach her. "You need to master the reduction technique," he advised, watching her practice in the safe house where they had set up a makeshift competition kitchen. "Your father was brilliant at it." Mia smiled, focused on the sauce she was preparing. "How do you know so much about cooking techniques?" Ethan shifted on the couch where he sat, observing her training. 3 years as a kitchen assistant in Taiwan, remember? I trained under a Michelin-starred chef. Lucas came running into the room, waving a tablet. "Mia, look at this." On the screen, the news showed Ricardo Lopes leaving the police station, surrounded by reporters. His once confident face now showed dark circles under his eyes and a cornered expression. Ricardo Lopes was indicted today for obstruction of justice, bribery of officials, and attempted murder. The businessman denied all charges and was released after posting bail. "Are they going to arrest him?" Lucas asked hopefully. Eventually, Ethan replied, "But first, he'll face public disgrace. For someone like Ricardo, that's worse than jail." Mia turned off the stove, deep in thought. "And still, he'll be at the competition as the main sponsor. He can't be removed." "That's exactly why you have to win," Ethan said, holding her hand. "It'll be the final blow." The day before the contest, Mia got an unexpected visit. Gabriel, the young man who had helped her in the challenge against the French chef, showed up at her apartment. "I came to offer my help," he said shyly. "I know I'm not a professional chef, but—" Mia hugged him, moved. "You're exactly who I need as an assistant." That night, while organizing her knives and tools, Mia found something tucked at the bottom of her equipment box. Her father's old recipe notebook. She flipped through it gently, her fingers brushing over the handwritten notes. On the last page, she noticed something she had never seen before. "For my Mia, who will one day shine brighter than all the stars in the culinary world. The secret isn't in the ingredients, but in the love we put into every dish." "Dad," she whispered, silent tears streaming down her face. It felt like a blessing from him, straight from above. "I'll make you proud, Dad," she whispered, kissing the worn page. The convention center was buzzing with activity on the morning of the final round. 8 finalists, all well-established chefs with their own restaurants or international training, and Mia, the outsider, the daughter of a rehabilitated chef, as some commentators had called her. Cameras were everywhere. The event would be broadcast live across the country. Mia and Gabriel were setting up their station when Ethan arrived, leaning on a cane but dressed sharply in a gray suit. "You're supposed to be resting," Mia said, concerned. "And miss your big moment?" "Not a chance." Their eyes met, and in that gaze was more than words could express. It held promises, hope, a possible future once the storm had passed. The host called the contestants to the center stage. The theme was announced: Reinvention, a classic dish with your personal touch. Mia felt a chill. It was as if her father had sent that theme from above. "Contestants, to your stations. You have 3 hours. Let the best chef win." The audience clapped. Cameras moved across the room. From the VIP mezzanine, Ricardo Lopes watched with cold eyes, sipping champagne as if nothing could touch him. Mia took a deep breath and got to work. She had chosen to reinvent her father's signature dish, Sea and Earth, a creation that combined perfectly seared scallops, a wine reduction sauce with secret spices, and earthy elements for contrast and harmony. The judges walked around the stations, asking questions, observing techniques. When they reached Mia's station, they stayed longer than usual. "Your father was known for this dish," said one of the judges, the renowned chef Valeria Costa. "Are you trying to recreate his legacy?" "I'm honoring his memory but creating my own version," Mia answered without pausing her chopping. "My father taught me that cooking is about respecting tradition and finding your own voice." Valeria nodded, clearly impressed. Up in the mezzanine, Ricardo grew visibly agitated with all the positive attention Mia was receiving. He called over one of the organizers, gesturing angrily. Sophia and Lucas watched from the front row, sitting next to Ethan. Lucas couldn't sit still, shifting between bouncing with excitement and biting his nails. "She's going to make it, right?" he asked Ethan for the 10th time. "She will," Ethan said confidently. "Your sister is the most determined person I've ever met." In the final hour of the competition, a production assistant walked up to Mia and whispered something in her ear. She visibly paled, but kept working. "What was that?" Gabriel asked, worried. "Ricardo requested a last-minute change," Mia murmured, adjusting the oven temperature. "The judges will now ask questions about advanced molecular gastronomy techniques, something that wasn't in the rules." "He can't do that." "Apparently, he can. He's the main sponsor." Gabriel looked like he wanted to argue, but Mia calmed him with a gesture. "It's okay. My father was fascinated by culinary science. I studied his notes." When the gong sounded to mark the end of the round, 8 dishes were ready for judging. Mia looked at her creation with a mix of pride and nervousness. It wasn't exactly how her father would have done it, it was her own version, with elements that reflected her journey. The judges tasted each dish carefully, taking notes and whispering among themselves. Ricardo watched with a confident smile, sure that his last-minute trap had worked. Finally, after a tense deliberation, the judges returned. The host held a golden envelope with the results. "Before we announce the winner," he began, "we have a special announcement to make. In a posthumous tribute, the National Culinary Council has decided to restore all honors and awards previously given to Diego Santos, recognizing the injustice done to this great chef." The audience erupted in applause. Sophia covered her face, moved to tears. Mia felt her legs go weak. "And now, the winner of this year's National Culinary Contest is..." The room fell completely silent. Ethan held his breath. Ricardo leaned over the balcony railing. Mia Santos, with her extraordinary reinvention of sea and earth. The audience rose in a thunderous ovation. Gabriel hugged Mia, who was frozen in shock. Sophia cried openly. Lucas jumped up, shouting at the top of his lungs. Ethan watched with tears in his eyes and a smile of pure pride. Ricardo threw his champagne glass to the floor and stormed off, pushing past security and photographers. As Mia walked up to the stage to receive the golden trophy, only one thought filled her mind. "We did it, Dad. We did it." Justice at last had been served on a perfectly executed plate. 6 months after winning the National Culinary Contest, Mia's life had completely changed. The small apartment where she lived with her mother and brother had been replaced by a spacious home in a quiet neighborhood. Sophia was receiving top medical care, and her health was slowly improving. Lucas was now attending a private school, where his talent for math was finally being recognized. But the biggest change was in Mia herself. The shy, guarded delivery girl had become a confident and respected chef. With Ethan's financial support, she opened her own restaurant, Santos, which earned its first star in the food guide in just 4 months. On that sunny Saturday morning, Mia was overseeing the final details for the most important event of her life. But it wasn't just any dinner. "The flowers need to be taller in the center," she instructed, watching the staff work to transform the restaurant's main hall. "And don't light the scented candles until 30 minutes before the guests arrive." Gabriel, now her official sous chef, came over with a clipboard. "The appetizers are ready for inspection, and the drinks team has arranged the wines according to your list." He hesitated, smiling. "Don't you think you might be overdoing it?" "After all, it's just..." "Don't say just," Mia interrupted, smiling nervously. "It's the most important day of my life." "More important than winning the national contest?" Gabriel teased. "By far." Mia's phone buzzed. It was Ethan. "Is everything okay? Do you need anything? I'm getting nervous." She smiled at the screen. The powerful CEO of Nexer Corp, who faced board meetings and billion-dollar deals without blinking, was nervous about a dinner. "Everything's perfect. Just make sure you're on time. Love you." Those last 2 words still felt surreal as she typed them. For so long, love had been a luxury she couldn't afford. Too focused on surviving and caring for her family. Now, it overflowed in her life. "Mia!" Lucas yelled, running into the room with a tablet in hand. "Look at this." A news article had just been published. Ricardo Lopes, sentenced to 15 years in prison. The photo showed the once powerful businessman, now worn down, being led away by police. Mia felt a deep sense of peace as she read the headline. It wasn't joy or revenge, it was closure for a painful chapter. Finally, she whispered, justice had come too late for her father, but it had come. Diego Santos had been fully vindicated, with posthumous honors and documentaries about his life in production. The poisoning that had ruined him was now proven to be a carefully planned conspiracy by Ricardo, driven by fear of the competition Diego's talent posed. "I think Dad's happy today," Lucas said, looking at the portrait of Diego that hung in a place of honor in the restaurant. Mia hugged her brother. "I'm sure he is." That evening, the Santos restaurant looked completely transformed. Soft lighting, white and gold flowers everywhere, and live music playing gently in the background. Guests began to arrive, friends, family, food journalists, and even a few judges from the competition. Sophia was brought in her wheelchair, but to everyone's surprise, she stood up and slowly walked to her seat with the help of a cane. Her eyes sparkled with pride and joy. "You look beautiful, Mom," Mia said, adjusting the silk shawl on Sophia's shoulders. "Your father would be so proud," Sophia replied, holding her daughter's face in her hands, "of everything you've achieved, of the person you've become." The buzz of conversation died down when Ethan walked in, as elegant as ever in a perfect suit, but there was something different in his eyes, a vulnerability, a quiet emotion few had ever seen. He walked straight to Mia, ignoring greetings and camera flashes. "You look stunning," he whispered, kissing her softly. Mia smiled as she fixed his tie. "Not bad for a CEO." Ethan laughed, more at ease than he had ever been in public. In recent months, their relationship had flourished under media attention. From corporate scandal to love story of the year, the headlines had shifted after Ricardo's conviction and the success of Mia's restaurant. Dinner went perfectly, 5 courses, personally prepared by Mia, each one telling part of her story, from the simple flavors she used to cook for her sick mother, to the refined techniques she had learned studying her father's notebooks. When dessert was served, a modern version of Diego's favorite soufflé, Ethan stood up and asked for silence. The room went quiet, anticipating something special. "1 year ago," he began, his voice steady but full of emotion, "I was a man focused only on numbers, contracts, and business achievements. My life was predictable, organized, and completely empty." Soft murmurs of agreement swept through the room. Lucas was recording everything with his new phone. Then, by pure chance, a delivery woman burst into my crisis meeting and solved a problem in seconds. Ethan smiled at Mia. And in that moment, though I didn't know it, my life changed forever. He walked over to Mia and held her hands. "You taught me about courage, Mia, about integrity, about standing up for what's right, no matter how impossible it seems. You showed me there are things more important than power and money." Ethan knelt down, drawing gasps from the guests. He pulled a small black velvet box from his pocket. "Mia Santos, would you do me the honor of becoming my wife?" Time seemed to stop. Mia's eyes filled with tears, but she could still see the ring, a sapphire surrounded by small diamonds, elegant, not flashy, just the way she liked it. "Yes," she whispered. 1,000 times yes. The room erupted in applause. Sophia was crying openly. Lucas was cheering and jumping. Gabriel popped open a bottle of champagne and began pouring glasses for a toast. As Ethan slid the ring onto her finger, Mia felt a comforting presence, as if her father was right there, blessing the moment. 6 months later, a soft breeze swayed the garden flowers at the seaside colonial mansion Ethan had chosen for the ceremony. The path to the altar was covered with white and gold petals, lined with floral arrangements that looked like they had grown naturally from the ground. Backstage, Mia was spinning nervously in front of the mirror. Her wedding dress, designed by the country's most respected designer, was a dream in ivory delicate lace on the sheer sleeves. A hand-embroidered bodice with tiny pearls, and a graceful train trailing behind her. "Hold still, sweetheart." Sophia was trying to adjust her veil, now using only a simple cane. The advanced treatment Ethan had financed was slowly restoring her mobility. "I'm so nervous, Mom," Mia said, taking a deep breath, more than I was before the competition final. Sophia smiled, her eyes full of emotion. "That's normal. Your father was the same way at our wedding. He dropped the bouquet twice before the ceremony." The mention of Diego brought a tender smile to Mia's face. In a small locket tied to her bouquet, she carried a photo of him, a way to have him there on her big day. Lucas burst into the room, looking sharp in his little page boy suit. "Mia, there's a surprise for you outside." "Not now, Lucas. I'm almost." The door opened again, revealing an older man with gray hair and kind eyes. Mia froze, confused. "Mateo Ribeiro," the man said, his voice emotional. "I was your father's sous chef for 8 years." Mia covered her mouth in surprise. "He talked about you all the time, said you were like a brother." "I came from Portugal as soon as I heard about the wedding," Mateo said softly as he stepped closer. "Your father once told me that if anything ever happened to him, I should be here for you." Mia couldn't hold back her tears. "He asked you to walk me down the aisle." Mateo nodded, wiping his own eyes. "If you'll allow me the honor." Outside, 300 guests waited under a perfectly blue sky, journalists, celebrities, famous chefs, and politicians. It had become the social event of the year, the wedding of powerful CEO Ethan Wright and rising star chef Mia Santos. At the altar, surrounded by floral arches, Ethan stood waiting. He looked both strong and vulnerable in his flawless tuxedo. Beside him was Lee, his loyal assistant and best man, smiling in a way few had ever seen. The music changed, signaling the bride's entrance. Everyone rose to their feet. Mia appeared at the start of the aisle, glowing beside Mateo. A quiet murmur of admiration passed through the crowd. Ethan, usually so composed, couldn't hide his emotions. His eyes filled with tears the moment he saw her walking down the path of rose petals. Every step toward the altar felt like a piece of their story. The unexpected meeting in the crisis room, the culinary challenge, the fight for justice, the kiss in the rain, the competition win, the proposal at the restaurant. When Mateo placed Mia's hand in Ethan's, he leaned in and whispered. Diego would be bursting with pride. The ceremony felt like a dream. Their vows, written by hand, moved even the most reserved guests. "Mia," Ethan began, his normally steady voice trembling a bit. "Before you, I thought success was measured in deals, contracts, and profits. But you showed me that true wealth is found in the moments money can't buy. Your courage inspired me. Your integrity challenged me. And your love changed me. I promise to spend every day of my life trying to be worthy of the miracle of having you by my side. I promise to honor your father's memory and build a life with you filled with love and justice." Mia took a deep breath, holding back her tears. "Ethan, you came into my life when everything had fallen apart. When no one believed in me. You saw past the surface. You risked everything to do what was right." Her voice cracked, but she kept going. "I promise to bring into our life the same passion I put into every dish I create. I promise to be your safe harbor when the corporate world becomes too heavy. And I promise to never forget that it only took 1 second for our lives to change forever." They exchanged rings, said "I do," and sealed their vows with a kiss. The orchestra burst into a joyful melody as golden petals rained down on them. Lucas whistled loudly, making the guests laugh. Sophia cried openly, leaning on her cane. The reception was held in the garden of the estate, transformed into an open-air ballroom, elegant tables, twinkling lights hanging from ancient trees, and the delicious scent of the 7-course dinner Mia had designed to tell their love story. During the meal, a surprise visitor appeared. Isabel Lopes, she had returned to the country after her husband's conviction and quietly approached the couple's table. "I came to ask for forgiveness," she said in a low voice. "I ignored Ricardo's actions for too long, until it was too late." Mia paused just a moment, then stood and embraced her, shocking the other guests. "Today is a day for new beginnings, for all of us." The most anticipated moment came when the couple stepped onto the dance floor for their first waltz. Ethan moved with natural grace, as if he and Mia had danced together all their lives. "Wife," he whispered in her ear, savoring the word. "Husband," she replied, smiling into his shoulder. As the music softened, Lucas climbed onto the stage and grabbed the band's microphone. "Hey everyone, I've got a super important announcement," the teenager shouted playfully. "Mia and Ethan are opening a new restaurant together." The guests applauded. "Curious. And it's going to be called 1 Second," Lucas said proudly, "in honor of how long it took my sister to fix a security issue and win over the richest guy in town." Laughter filled the garden. Ethan shook his head, amused, while Mia hid her face in his chest, both embarrassed and laughing. Later, under a sky full of stars, the couple stole a quiet moment in the garden. Ethan wrapped his arms around Mia from behind, both gazing out at the ocean beyond the property. "Are you happy?" he asked, kissing her neck. "More than I ever thought possible," she said, turning in his arms. "You know what I love most about you?" Ethan whispered, gently touching her face. "How you turned something simple into something extraordinary. A routine delivery became a meeting that changed everything. Basic ingredients became works of culinary art." Mia smiled, took his hand, and softly placed it on her belly. "Speaking of transformations, one is on the way." Ethan's eyes widened as he understood instantly. "A baby," he whispered, his voice full of emotion. Mia nodded, tears of joy shining in her eyes. "Our very own little miracle." Ethan held her gently, as if she were the most precious treasure in the world, then kissed her under the starlit sky. As their lips parted, both of them instinctively looked upward. One star glowed a little brighter for a moment. "Your father is watching," Ethan whispered. "I'm sure of it." "Love has come, Dad," Mia whispered toward the sky, "and it's here to stay." Back at the party, guests danced, laughed, and celebrated a love that had overcome all odds. The powerful CEO and the delivery girl, the businessman and the chef, two souls who met at exactly the moment they needed each other most.